next?
Well, next I have Mike Licker. I want to just share some things that my company would like to share with you, that things that I've used to grow my own business. And I love that comment we just got from that, I can't remember her name, the one who just won. See, this is where my brain goes here. But the ability to share what you learn with somebody else is really, really important. And the ability to let that go and not feel like it's your competition that's going to take it over from you is really important too. And one of the things that happened when I first started my business is I moved to town. This is a side story here that I think is kind of telling in that way. Is I moved to a small town and I said, I'm going to contact all the photographers in town, invite them to coffee, and just say, hey, let's be friends, let's share what we're doing. And so I went through the phone book and basically sent a message to every photographer in my phone book, and only one person replied back to me. And he said, okay, I'll meet you. So I'll meet you at Barnes & Noble. So we went down to Barnes & Noble, brought one of my wedding albums to share, and he walked in, he didn't even sit down, started flipping through my album, and he said, that'll never work here. And he kind of smiled, then made some small talk, and then he walked off. I was like, wow, okay, so this is what I'm up against in my little small town. So I started a photography association, and with the point being to bring photographers together. And that went over great, and sort of break down the barriers to communication. So that's something that I've always suggested to people is if you're having a hard time getting to know the photographers in your area, or you feel like there's walls, sometimes you got to be the big person and step up and open those doors yourself. And that can be tremendously beneficial to you as a photographer, as a person. So maybe you're going to start your own photographers group in your town. It's amazing what happens when you take the charge. So one of the things I want to share with you that has worked for me in my business for almost 20 years is the enhancing tools for Photoshop and for Lightroom. We have Kubota Image Tools, we have actions and presets for Lightroom. And one of the things I found when I started using these years and years ago was that I sold more images. Pure and simple, when I enhanced my images, I sold more. And I would test it on my clients as I would take a handful of images and do the enhancements on them with my actions or presets. And then the other ones, I would just do them clean and natural and present them to the clients. And they always gravitated towards those that were enhanced. And it was pretty obvious that they wanted to see that. And I think most of us photographers have been in the business long enough, understand that some level of enhancement is always important to your sales. It really is. No matter if you think you're a natural photographer, I honestly don't believe that you can just take an image straight out of the camera and that's the best it's ever going to get. I always think there's a little bit more you can do. It's just a little cleanup, a little bit of tonal enhancing, or maybe it deserves something completely off the charts, crazy artistic, and that's fine too. Because bottom line is you're an artist. You're an image maker. You're not, unless you're a documentary photographer, you have the right and the responsibility to impart your vision on your images, and I think that's really important. So we have actions and presets, and we're giving some away for you guys. One of the things I'm also giving away is a lighting notebook. This is about lighting. You're going to see some of this afternoon. We're going to do lighting, little mini workshop for you right after the lunch break. And a lot of this information you can also see in my book, The Lighting Notebook, and we have a mini collection called the Mini Art Collection of Presets to give away too. So a book and presets will go to a winner.
Awesome. And what is the preset value, by the way?
The preset is a package with the books for $50.
All right, fantastic. All right, package books, $50. That's awesome. The winner is Georgia Walters. Georgia told us that she's thankful that her husband graduated law school yesterday and eternally grateful for my mother-in-law who believed in me when I said I wanted to learn photography. Well, congratulations, Georgia. You are getting a lighting book from one of the greatest lighters. Is that a word? Greatest, what are you, the bestest lighter ever?
Oh, I'm not the bestest. I just enjoy teaching about lighting, and that's what it is.
Well, one of the things that I think is really important is I found that with Kevin, watching his work and seeing the types of images that he creates. I know originally he was doing a ton of weddings. He was doing a lot of things that just blew my mind. And I always joke with many artists that I'm a baby photographer. I'm a children's photographer. So for me, I get a little jealous about these incredible images that these artists who work with adult people, where you can actually get them to stand still and make them do things you want them to do. I always get a little jealous of that. So for me, it's interesting. when you provide the tools, these books and these learning tools that you give, it gives me an opportunity to learn too, because I know how to get on my knees, I know how to beg children, I know how to bribe. Those are the things that I do. All right, good deal. So let's see, I think you have something else to share. Check that out. All right, and I think you have something else to give away.
I have one more thing to give away. We already talked about these, but our Photoshop actions, again, as part of our image enhancing tools, we have actions for Photoshop. And we're going to give away one of our favorite packages, the Viva La Vintage. And this is a $90 value, or $110 value today. Special for you, not 90, but 110. So
that's not very special, Kevin.
I know. It used to be $3,000, but today, 110. So this is something for Photoshop users.
All right, fantastic. And we have our winner already. Our winner today is going to be, and this is for the Vintage Photoshop Actions, our winner is going to be Amanda Rooney. Congratulations, Amanda. You won a prize. See, it doesn't take a whole lot to win. You just got to tell us what you're grateful for. That's not too painful. All right, Amanda. Amanda said, I will be eternally grateful for Angie Seaman, the first photographer who was willing to teach and encourage me. After having a successful photography business for 7 years, I owe much of this to you. Well, congratulations to both you, Amanda, as well as to Angie. Obviously, Angie has been an incredible resource to you, and that's, of course, really nice to have somebody that cares enough to tell you a little bit about the industry. I know when I started, I struggled a lot with getting information. And we have to go way back in dinosaur years here, because I have been shooting now for 29 years. When I started, I was 17, almost 18 years old, and I was female in a very male-dominated industry, and I have no problem with guys. But being young and female and being very intimidated by these older men who seem to know so much about this mystical dark room and magical camera, it was really hard. And we didn't have the internet to fall back on, and we were shooting film. I shot film for 13 years. So for me, there was an incredible struggle with how do you get information. Back then, you had to go to the library and you had to consume all of the books you could, and that was pretty much the only resource. And from there, eventually I learned about organizations. I joined the local and the national organizations, and people started to share and give. And believe me, those little bits are the foundation of my business. Now, Kevin, for you, do you have any, what was it like when you started out? How long have you been doing it, and where did you get your information?
Yeah, I started about 25 years ago when I was 2. And it was the same, yeah. I remember going to the library. I would go through magazines and just dissect, I love the articles, the how-to articles in the magazines, because that was kind of like the only way you would learn. And I remember even back then, I would try to contact photographers in the area to see if anybody would help me or if I could help assist them, and very few would respond back, and it was hard, so you kind of had to figure it out on your own. And
it was really intimidating. I mean, I don't think people will ever understand the world of YouTube and how anything you want to know, you just... Instant information. And I will always be grateful. I think one of the things I'm very grateful for today is that original education, because the one thing that working with film taught you is you had to get it right in the camera. You had to know what you were doing. And when I transitioned very early on in digital, and I was one of those people that swore I would never do it until the day I touched the camera, and then I fell in love and I understood the amount of opportunities it would provide me. But I had 13 years of shooting film, and with film, interestingly enough, a roll of film for a 35, or back then we were shooting 645, the medium format cameras, a roll of film took 15 shots. And typically on a session, I would use 2 rolls of film. So I would shoot 30 shots. And to be very honest with you, half the time I was shooting, I would get to shot number 24, and in my head I'd be going, okay, what am I going to do now? I got everything I needed. And it was very interesting that you trained your brain to shoot and get it right in camera. Going to digital, of course, everybody has that overshooter anonymous, push the button a million times, you have to get a good one. But I am very grateful for the fact that I had to learn the hard way, that I had to learn to light and expose and use all of the tools that a camera offers and nail it in camera. There was no back of the camera. You never got to see if you got it right. So you really had to know your stuff. Now, were you a film shooter as well?
Yeah, I started with a Hasselblad and shooting medium format and pulling Polaroids when I needed to off the back there. So yeah, I shot not only film but manual everything when I first started, and then I actually graduated to 35 millimeter after a while shooting Hasselblad. So yeah, I kind of felt the same way. You look at the sun, you look at the light, and you go, I think it's f5.6 at 125, and then you know.
Yeah, did you become a human meter too?
Yeah, your human light meter.
Thing, is we use light meters. I still use one to this day, but I always use a light meter. And then eventually I would go out on sessions and I would go, I bet it's this. And I would be right on target.
Yeah.
So I eventually, after 13 years, became a human light meter. And to this day, those practices have still become a big part of who I am and how I do things. So one of the things I would encourage you this season is while you're out there practicing, make a commitment to shoot less and think more. To really choose your shots and make decisions based on what's going to be good for the client. And instead of pushing that button over and over and over again, really create art and take your time to do that. So, all right, guys, well, I don't want us to hold up the show. And as we reminisce about the dinosaur days of film, we get that it's easy now, it's fun, it's engaging, and we've got incredible tools that can do incredible things for us.